We fade up to the bar. It's a large room, hot and stifling. In the center of the room, there is a large overhead fan with flat black blades. And from the center of the fan hangs a curled stream of flypaper dotted with black. There is a ledge along each wall, and on each of these there is a cluster of empty bottles: whiskey, Coca-Cola, 7-Up. Your glance is bored and remote, but inside you are nervous and threatened. Into your POV comes the figure of the father, your father. But he doesn't notice you at first, so you look at him, then the other men in the room. The camera is your eyes, and it slowly turns around the space. Your mouth is barely open, and you are conscious of the sound of your own breathing. Your gaze falls upon an old sign made of torn cardboard with large words scribbled in pencil: play at your own risk. You decide to return to your own thoughts, but the man keeps looking at you. You realize that though he is aged, he is still handsome, like Paul Newman in The Hustler. And you realize that despite everything, you are still attracted to your own father. The camera dollies towards him, and as it does, you assume he will welcome you home with open arms. But instead, he leans close to the man sitting next to him at the bar, but says loud enough so that you can hear, "Hey," he asks, "can I borrow your 7-year-old? I ripped mine." In 1992, Thomas E. Murray visited 50 singles bars in the Houston metro area and collected some 3,000 opening lines, which he divided into three principal categories: compliments, advertisements, and questions. Of the compliments, almost 500 were recorded, or 1/6 of the total, making them the least popular form of opening lines. I like your shirt. You have good taste in drinks. You're a pretty good dancer. Nice body. Nice ass. Male to female compliments. Great pair of boobs. Best boobs I've seen all night. You have great hair. Female to male. I like your ass. I like what I see. What skilled-looking hands you have. Advertisements or declarations. Nice place. Nice band. I see we're drinking the same thing. It's sure hot in here. I know French. I'm hot. I'm in the mood. I love chocolate. Male to female. I'm a retread. I'm a cannibal. I'm a monkey tamer. My yard is hard. Female to male. My monkey's wild. I want to play. My bunny really hops. Questions. More than half of the opening lines collected were questions. Come here often. Having a good time. How about it? How about a slow screw? Wanna fuck? Wanna saddle up? Male to female. Wanna bang my wang? Wanna honk my horn? Wanna collar my bishop? Can I pet your monkey? Female to male. Can Johnny come out and play? Like art? Like cats? From the hours of 8 to 9, only 11 compliments were recorded, but at midnight there were 240. 81 propositions at 8 o'clock, 674 at midnight. But the biggest drop was in questions, 207 at 8 o'clock, only 30 at midnight. So as the night went on, there were less things people wanted to know about the other, less questions, and less answers to the questions. Do you have a place? Do you want to go home? Need company? Are you lonely? Live near here? Yeah, over the river and through the woods, just past that bend where the road forks. It's far enough from the neighbors so they won't hear a thing. Are those fangs in your mouth? Or are you just happy to see me? If Mike could have created the perfect morning, this might have been it. He and his 18-year-old twin brother John pulled out of their driveway in the little town of Vernon, Texas, well before dawn on their way to meet friends at their favorite hunting spot 50 miles to the south. The air was damp, but not too cold, spraying the windshield with a fine mist and promising quiet footing for stealthy hunters. They talked about sports and girls as the miles melted away and anticipation built. They talked of strategy, last-minute advice, and then simply matched the pre-dawn stillness with a stillness of their own, sharing the comfortable silence of good friends, boys who know each other very well. The woods were as silent as a tomb around mid-morning when they started hunting. The morning fog had lifted, but the mist still enshrouded trees, hills, and the brothers with eerie clouds that floated on the wind like gray ghosts. It was almost noon before the brothers and their 3 friends in their hunting party encountered their first deer. 4 does flushed not 30 yards ahead of the advancing men, and fluffy white tails waved at them almost tauntingly as the deer disappeared up the hill and among the hemlock. After conferring, the 5 men split up to go around the hill in an attempt to get in front of their animals. 10 minutes later, the mist-muffled blast of a 12-gauge shotgun signaled the success of the strategy, or so it seemed. The sound of hysterical weeping drew the other hunters at a run, and what they saw when they arrived erased all thoughts of success. Mike was draped over the body of his brother, crying, "Johnny, Johnny, my baby." On the blood-splattered snow, John lay dead, shot through the head by his own brother, his twin. Nobody is sure exactly what happened that morning. Did Mike mistake John's black and white cap for the white flash of a deer's tail? Or, as the friends insist to this day, did a deer run between the brothers? Only one man saw what happened that day, and he's not telling, because not 30 minutes after he'd taken his brother's life, Mike took his own. Having been left alone for just a few minutes while friends went to get help, Mike loaded John's gun with a 12-gauge shell from his pocket, placed the muzzle under his chin, and pulled the trigger. A close friend talked to the papers a few days later. I guess Mike didn't want Johnny to go alone. They went everywhere together. They had a connection few people could understand. In 1978, a man named Eric Tarbox came to the town of Paradise from Dallas to teach music to the junior high school students. At first, he was thought of as a nice man by the students and the administration, as high a regard as any outsider could expect to receive. But as his first year wore on, he became frustrated with the lack of ability of most of his students, which is only fueled by a new contractual agreement to coach the girls' basketball team. Mr. Tarbox was not a basketball player. He was not a coach, and his team resounded in extravagant defeats. He began yelling at his tiny band as they practiced. The woodwind section was made up of 2 clarinetists, 2 saxophone players, and Kim Kiner on flute. All girls who he was constantly admonishing with waves of his baton to play louder, stop squeaking, get some depth to your playing. The woodwind section soon came to hate Mr. Tarbox and squeaked as much as possible. The brass section was made up of boys who seemed more dedicated than either the woodwind or percussion sections. Their ability, of course, was moderate, but they respected their teacher and played loud, controlled their tone, and emptied their spit valves on the chairs of the clarinetists. Mr. Tarbox decided that the horn section was one of the few things in his life he could control, so he set up early morning practice sessions for each of his trumpet players. Students walking by the band room before school started could hear the rich, glowing sounds as one of the trumpet players blossomed under Mr. Tarbox's personal expertise. In the winter of 1979, Jason Koss, one of the trumpet players, who was now a freshman at the high school, stopped eating. He shut himself up in his room and began having very violent nightmares. When Mrs. Koss probed her son for reasons to his problem, she was faced with an answer more horrifying than she could have ever expected. It seemed that the conductor, during his locked-door practice sessions, had been coercing the boys into oral sex, mutual masturbation, and in the case of Jason Koss, sodomy. Well, the scandal rocked the town like nothing had before it, but the ensuing trial was kept behind closed doors and the names of the boys involved kept out of the town paper. But Paradise is a small town. Everyone knows who everyone is. Everyone knows their victims, and the victims know their oppressors. And after Mr. Tarbox was sent to the state mental hospital, where he still is today, there was a thick, dark pallor covering the town that even the thaw of that year's spring could not possibly melt. stroke you to seduction. Why are they so cold? These are my eyes reflecting knives. Ladies and gentlemen, on the runway tonight, body parts and memories, satisfaction and denial. Doggeress, I'll be your boy. Doggeress, I'll be your toy. I'll let you pry open my insides with your bare hands. Doggeress, I'll be your boy. How can you be so cold with my arms to hold you? How can you be so cold with my strength to control you? How can you be so cold after all I've shown you? How can you be so cold? How can you be so cold after all I've told you? Doggeress, I'll be your girl. Doggeress, I'll rock your world. Doggeress, my legs unfurled like a rainbow flag on the rooftop. Doggeress, I'll be your girl. I'll be your girl. I'll be your girl. I'll be your girl. I sit alone by the river, and if anybody comes by, I say hi, and they say hi, and they say, how you doing? And I say, how you doing? And they say, fine, and I say, fine, and they say, I like you, and I say, okay, I don't like you. And all I do is reflect people back at themselves like a mirror. It's a language, like in a singles bar, like on a chat line. Hey, is anybody out there? It's a rhythm, like when the pounding on your door matches the pounding of your heart, and you realize that you're just a stranger, alone and afraid in a world that you never made. And it's like this. When I was a kid, I'd be on the basketball court, and someone would say, "Hey, Billy, your dad's calling you for dinner." So Billy would leave, and Johnny would leave, and then Tommy would leave. And I'd be left all alone on the basketball court, unaccepted, outcast. And years later, I come back to the basketball court, but everybody's grown up. And there's a whole new wave of kids there. And I say, "Whatever happened to Billy?" "Well, he died in Afghanistan." "Whatever happened to Tommy?" "Well, he's an auto mechanic in Detroit." "Whatever happened to Johnny?" So I'm away for a while, and I come back. But this time, when it's time for Billy to go home, he doesn't go home. And there's 15 kids there, and it's after dark. And I say, "What are you kids doing?" "It's after dark. Isn't your daddy calling you home for dinner?" "No way, man. My daddy kicked me out." "No way. My dad hates me." "No way. My dad's drunk." And I realized I was on a road, a long road. But hey, there were all these other kids on the same road. And I said, "Hey, I didn't realize that you knew this place. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there?" Anybody out there?
You reached the 5757 main menu. Press 1 for one-on-one rematch. Press 2 for party room and private room conversation. Press 3 for... You're about to be switched to the party room. Remember that private rooms are available. On private cruise code is 12. There's no one in the party room right now.
Anybody out there?
Hot guy should show up.
Anybody out there? Warren Chisholm is the Texas state legislator from Lubbock, who is also the president of the largest government coalition in the state, the Texas Conservative Coalition. He has worked hard against the enactment of a strong hate crimes bill. He is totally opposed to any legislation that will make gays and lesbians a protected class similar to minorities. And he has described homosexuality as demeaning to the natural nature of man. I mean, animals don't do that, do they? Well, in 1994, the Dallas Morning News reported that Chisholm reportedly paid $200,000 for the buying up of AIDS patient insurance policies. In these investments, the investor purchases the life insurance policy of the patient at a discount and then becomes the beneficiary when the patient dies. Because the investor has to pay the monthly premium for the AIDS patient, his profit of margin goes up if the insured dies quickly. But the risk of these so-called death futures is that the patient will survive for a very long time. I had a dream where Jesus picked me up in a gray BMW at the corner of Polk and Sutter, and he takes me to his place, which turns out to be a gallery filled with Nagel paintings and neon sticks in black lacquer vases. And I lie on the bed and watch him undress under the light of a bare red bulb. He sits on the bed, bends down, and begins unscrewing his left leg off at the hip. And he blushes as I watch him. And he unscrews his right leg and places them together at the foot of the bed, and he doesn't say a word. All I hear is the sound of metal on metal as he takes himself apart. And I look closely and I see that his legs are made of solid gold with a beautiful deep glint to their exquisite casts. And I look even more closely and I see tiny rubies and diamonds and emeralds embedded in the legs, and I realize he must have melted down the jewelry of a great many men. And then something changes and the red bulb starts to flicker. He turns his stubby torso to me, and he's a different man. This is not the same Jesus who picked me up in his gray BMW, all smiles and benevolence, just needing company. This is a man with something to prove. This is a man simmering under his own skin. And he has claws for hands and knives for eyes. And he says he wants to carve his initials across my stomach, G-O-D, and then lick the blood off his very name. I am frozen with fear and cannot move a muscle as he bobs his torso up the bed, closer and closer to me, reaching out with those snapping claws. And he leans close to me and I can smell the liquor on his breath. And he says, I am a large man. I am quiet and genteel. I'm an old soul and I'm trying to heal. I'm a large man and I am still learning. I seek boundaries that are clear. I am sincere. And your own dreams flow through your skull. I am a large man and I am new to these parts. You are incredibly slender, the flower of my heart. You blossom, you flow, you will grow in my large hands. I am a large man and I am your perfect stranger. I am your perfect stranger. I am perfect. but the circus it was not. I never raised my voice to you. I never threatened what you owned. I was the perfect little son. I was the perfect little son. Oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy. Oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy, oh daddy. I can't believe my eyes. I can't believe my ears. I can't believe your hands. They're all over me. You said you want what's best for me. You said you're looking out for me. You said I need to learn respect. Bend over like a man and learn some respect, boy. Mommy said go drive with Dad. He'll make you into a man. Mommy said go drive with Dad. He'll make you into a man. Mommy said go drive with Dad. He'll make you into a man. But Daddy, why'd you go so far? You took me driving in your car. Took me driving in your car to the greatest show on earth. It was the hottest place in town. It was the hottest place in hell. And I burned for you. And I burned for you. And I loved you. And you said that's a good boy. You're really very good boy. Over the river and through the woods. Over the river and through the woods. A stranger, am alone and afraid in a world I never made. I'm a stranger, I'm alone and afraid in a world I never made. On the road, of suffering extends from the court of Pontius Pilate to the hill of Golgotha, and has at its end an inscription which is the equivalent of, "Father, can't you see I'm burning?" And in the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Questions. And we fade up to the hotel room, the one with the lipstick on the mirror, and we hear the sound of the radio announcer, and he's asking questions. Are you happy? Are you sad? Does your mother love you? Did your daddy ever beat you? Are you scared? And we dissolve into the bar, where the man who looks like Paul Newman leans close to the camera, and his eyes are absolutely glimmering. And he says, "Hey, how do you know your younger sister started her period? You can taste blood on your dad's dick." The three boys had been trying all night to get Nicholas West into Bergfeld Park in the guise of a pickup. They were interested in his red Mazda truck and its stereo system, but he wouldn't take the bait until finally he approached Donald Aldrich as he got off the phone. "Why, don't this just make it easy?" The three boys pushed West into their car in the direction of the pits. They asked him how much money he had, and he'd better tell the truth, because if he lied, they were going to tie him to the bumper and drag him a few miles. Just a little game of scare the fag. Once they got to the pit, West was forced out of the car and told to start walking up the little hill. And this is where it really got good. Aldrich discovered that West was so scared he had shit in his pants. It was hilarious. When you scare a man so bad that he literally shits on himself, that man is scared. West was ordered to remove his pants and shoes, and when he did, the boys discovered a $10 bill, and that meant the queer had lied to them. So Aldrich bitch-slapped West across the face with a .357 Magnum. And then Henry Dunn decided he wanted to fight Nicholas West, but West didn't want to fight. So Dunn set West's hands in a fighter stance, but the fag still wouldn't fight. So Dunn hit him anyway with his ring-filled fist. And West still wouldn't fight. And wasn't that just the kind of fag-ass behavior you'd expect from a queer? So Dunn hit him a few more times and kicked him, and then said, "To hell with this," and took the .357 Magnum and shot West in the stomach. Other shots followed, 2 by Aldrich, 1 by David McMillan, and 5 more by Henry Dunn. But Nicholas West was still alive, his breath reduced to a tiny gurgle, until the final shot was fired in the back of his head. And there he was left in that field of red clay, face down, without shoes or pants, his arms by his side and his legs spread apart like those of a sleeping child, the bottom of his socks red from the clay. I do not like homosexuals. I do not care for homosexuals. And a lot of times, homosexuals are known for carrying quite a bit of money on them. So that's where it comes in with hitting them, kind of more or less like a vengeful type of thing. And then a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, if you talk to a lot of teenagers, they'll tell you, "Let's go fag-bashing." I work all my life trying to make something nice and make something of myself. About the best job I can get is working in a restaurant making minimum wage or just barely over it. And it's like, I get no breaks. From the time I was a kid, it seemed like there was a lot against me. And yet, here these fags are doing something that God totally condemns in the Bible. And look at everything they've got. They've got all this nice stuff. They've got all these good jobs, sit back at a desk or sit back in an air-conditioned building, not having to sweat, not having to bust their ass, and they've got money. They've got the cars, and they've got the apartments, and they've got all this nice stuff. banks of the Brazos River, fires burn while we sleep. Babies cry, sucking dry breasts, while we slumber deep. And on the banks of the Brazos River, you and I engaged in a kiss. Down the sweat of your body covered me. My darling, can you picture this? And all I want to know is if bones burn. And on the banks of the Brazos River, we look up to the sky. Birds that look like helicopters fire down, and the bullets fly. And all I want to know is if bones burn. And as I stand, skin rolls off my hands. And as we breathe in and out, we say the name of God. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. And on the banks of the Brazos River, our gas masks hide our tears. We breathe the name of God as the Holocaust draws near. And as I stand, skin rolls off my hands. And as I breathe, the name of God repeats. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Question: what sound does your body make when you die? Doesn't make any sound, David. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't, David. Yes, it does. You don't know what you're talking about. Your last dying breath, David, is that what you mean? Yeah. What does your body do when you die? Rattle. Rattle. The camera pans from an image of my dream to the hotel balcony. I'm standing there in my underwear, staring out at the Dallas skyline. The camera reveals that I'm tied to the wall behind me and my arms are stretched back, taut. I can see clouds gathering on the horizon beyond Fort Worth, but I am in too much pain to care. I close my eyes so that I can return to my dream, to remove myself from the balcony and the hotel. But I hear movement around me and an old voice says, "Open your eyes, boy. Open your goddamn eyes. I want you to look up to the sky. Can't you see it's moving? It's closing in. Can you feel it? Are you scared?" And my eyes open and the pupils dilate as I focus and adjust to the light of the room. It's morning and the room is the room from my childhood. It's a very small place, hot and stifling. In the middle of the room there is a large overhead fan with fat black blades, and I see my father watching me from the rocker in the corner. "Hope I didn't scare you, son," he says. "Daddy, why are you watching me?" "It's been so long since I've seen you, kid. You can't blame me for looking you over." Well, I roll over away from him. "It's time to get up, boy. Something's approaching. A twister. A big one. You better get down to the cellar. You better hurry, 'cause I can't help you. I'm a weak man in the face of Mother Nature, and you know that. So I turned over towards him, but he was gone, and the room began to move, shifting, creaking, and I looked up to the sky, and it was moving. It was moving. The roof's blown off our place. We're moving fast and gaining ground, twisting up into space, leaving chaos in our wake, forgetting all that we know, blowing across America, sucking up all the junk. Storm. Twisted storm, sucking up. As I'm carried through the tornado, I fly past Tyler, on past Waco. I'm watching houses crack from the pressure. I'm watching families running for shelters. So what? Get up.